how does that saying go? The king is dead, long live TikTok? It's something like that, right? Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Amelia's Weekly Fish Fry, brought to you by eejournal.com and hosted by me, Amelia Dalton. This week, we've got cyborgs, robots, and more sensors than you'll ever know what to do with. But first, pop quiz. Did you know that locusts can smell explosives? And as a follow-up, did you also know that we can now control their brains to pinpoint to exactly what they're smelling? Oh yes. Welcome to this week's news you may have missed, my friends. Bomb-sniffing cyborg locusts edition. Now, before we get into that cyborg business, we need to start with our newfound ability to read the minds of locusts. So, it was actually way back in 2018, and doesn't that seem like decades ago now? Yeah. That a team of research scientists at Washington University in St. Louis found that locusts actually have a specific subset of neurons that only fire when they are presented with a particular smell. In this series of experiments, they actually trained their locusts with something akin to Pavlov's dog. A machine administered a puff of a specific scent, hexanol to be exact, to a group of hungry locusts. And then the team rewarded the locusts with a treat of grass. So the most important part of this study was the discovery that locusts show a brain pattern very similar to a or, of, and computational logic when it comes to attempting to recognize a specific odor. Each time the target odor was introduced on its own, the neural activity of the locust was basically the same. But when the locusts were exposed to a distractor smell first, something not hexanol, different combinations of neurons fired when the locusts were then exposed to hexanol. So even though their neurons were firing in a variety of different ways as they smelled various other smells, when they smelled that grass-tempting hexanol, their mouths opened for a bite. So based on that previous research, a team at the McKelvey School of Engineering discovered that they could indeed hack into the locust olfactory system to both detect and discriminate between different explosive scents, all within a few hundred milliseconds of exposure. This team was able to clearly see that the neurons responded differently to TNT and DNT, as well as other explosive chemical vapors. They were also able to optimize a previously developed biorobotic sensing system that could detect the locust firing neurons and convey that information that could be communicated to researchers to tell what smells the locusts were actually sensing. So in order to do the least harm to these locusts and to keep them stable in order to accurately record their neural activity, this team came up with a brand new surgical procedure that attached electrodes to their tiny little heads that didn't hinder the locust movement. And with these tiny, itty-bitty new electrodes in place, this team found that the brain activity of a locust exposed to an explosive smell was resolved into a discernible odor-specific pattern within 500 milliseconds. Wow. So this team of researchers at the McKelvey School of Engineering came up with a very unique way to test whether the locust can actually locate a bomb by figuring out which direction the odor was coming from. So, get this. They put them in a clear plastic box in a robot car. Yep, that sounds about right to me. So, this is how it works. That robotic car was moving along the side of a box with explosive vapors funneled into that box at a specific place. And you know what they found? The locust brain waves did indeed get stronger when the concentrations of the vapors got stronger. What? So, what's next for our little cyborg locusts? Quite a lot, actually. The researchers say that these little dudes are almost ready for prime time to be used to search for traces of explosives for Homeland Security and other organizations. Wow. So, if you want even further information about these bomb-sniffing cyborg locusts, I've included some links below the player. You should check them out, especially the video of the locusts at work. It's pretty great. All right, from cyborgs to robots, let's bring in Alessandro, Gasparini, and Alain Pacquin from Immervision. They're bringing us the goods on Joyce, the first humanoid robot for the computer vision community. We're talking about how Immervision and their partners are going to enable Joyce with human perceptions and beyond, and how design contests will assist with the evolution of this first-of-her-kind humanoid robot. All right, let's go. Welcome, Alessandro. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you, Amelia, for inviting us.
Welcome, Alain. Thank you so much for joining me.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Okay, so first off, Alessandro, what is Immervision all about?
We are a company that focuses on vision. And for 20 years, we've been working on different aspects of vision, combining optics and software, always with the goal of bringing the immersive experience to end users. We're talking 20 years ago. And then we're going toward machines need to understand the environment, so we need to give them vision. And they have the ability to see perhaps even more than humans because we can give them eyes all around their head instead of only in the front. So we grew from really focusing more on providing that experience to end users, that immersive experience, to really focusing on providing intelligent visions to machines, to devices. And when we say intelligent visions, for us, it refers to the eyes and the additional senses coming together to have a good perception of the environment. And Immervision strength is in the vision side. So I would say the optics, the image processing that allows to display images the way either users can enjoy them or as needed for artificial intelligence or machine learning or any other type of algorithm, I would say, that needs to reconstruct an environment. But in order to achieve full perception, we need to have additional senses coming from being sound, being smell, being touch, and being all the senses you can imagine. But machines can get more senses than humans, can get temperature, can get IMUs to have direction, GPS, altitude, all kind of additional sensors that would allow to have even a better understanding of the environment that a human could in a certain time.
Okay, so you guys will be unveiling a new humanoid robot called Joyce, who will use immersive vision technologies for a machine to have human-like perception and adapt to the environment. So tell me more about Joyce. What was the motivation to build such a robot?
Let me say that the sense of vision is a highly complex sense. We take it for granted that when we look at something, we understand what's happening, but it's a complex process. And I can say that the computer vision industry, let's say as a whole, ultimately have this vision, this dream of being able to acquire machine perception, not only for Joyce, but for any machine to be able to understand its environment. This by itself would have a lot of implication. In many ways, it would improve our lives. Now, to do this, to achieve something like this, requires a lot of different components, a lot of different parts to be integrated. And we see Joyce basically as a way to bring the community together around this specific goal. And if we bring Joyce to be over time more and more intelligent in the way she perceives the environment, along the way, we will also resolve, let's say, challenges that many industries currently have. So that's basically the goal, because Immervision has been focusing on this important but still tiny part of what computer vision is all about, and it needs to interact with experts in AI and experts in the development of additional sensors to be able to complete the sense of vision, basically. So that's the idea of Joyce.
The idea behind Joyce, as Alain explained it, is really to bring the community, but to bring experts outside of Immervision and outside of one only organization. And what we realized in time, is that working with number of companies, working the aerospace, working with the security, with the defense, with the medical, with the broadcast industry, with the robotic industry, with the smartphone industry, with the consumer appliances industry, we realized that all these companies have silos expert. And when I say silos expert, mean you go to Boston Robotics, for example. Boston Robotics has dozens of quadruple PhDs, I call them, that have the ability and they have the experience, 35, 40 years of experience in robotics. The only thing they think about is robots, 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 robots. They are in a silos. And when they come to solve certain challenges that are a little bit beyond the simple, let's say, movement or understanding of the calculation or algorithms, there's some other sensors, some other components that by themselves they cannot come to achieve that performance that they would like. They need people from outside. They need other people that only do every day, let's say, sensors that I use for gyroscope or other that makes microphones to be able to perfectly understand a human voice with algorithms behind it, all of that coming together. And so I realized that really even more when I got myself an iRobot Roomba. It's the latest model, S Plus. I can spend 15, 20 minutes watching it going around house cleaning with a glass of wine. And then I'm there and I'm like, darn, technology, it's amazing. Look at that. It can turn the corner. And then bang, you hit the leg of a chair. And you go there, oh, there you are. Now you detected a chair. And then you go back, bang, again in the same leg of the chair. Then after 4 times, I go there and I'm just wanting to tell him like, hey, yo, Roomba, that's the leg of the chair. It's 4th time you hit yourself with it. You're supposed to have a sensor that tells you that, but actually doesn't. And it takes time to understand that environment where I'm sure if by developing additional senses or more advanced senses, but not Immervision only. We can only provide vision. We can provide some platform for including additional data with the vision, but the other sensors, they need other people outside. So breaking those silos to create the answers, if you like, or the solutions to these challenges. And that's what we hope is to have these companies, and I actually hope one day to have iRobot saying, I want to sponsor a Joyce event because I want to be able to reduce my time of understanding the environment, don't hit the chair any longer. That would be great.
I love that. Now, let's talk about capabilities here. What are we really talking about in terms of capabilities? And can you guys give my audience some details about what's under the hood?
Yeah, sure. The core equipment of Joyce basically includes today the optics. And when we talk about the optics, we're talking about 3 wide-angle cameras that give her a 360 spherical view of the environment. And we're also talking, because the goal is to add sensors, additional sensors, about what is called data and picture, a technology that has been developed by Immervision. What data and picture does basically brings the information from the sensors into the frame, each frame of the video, so that the information is synchronized whenever it's sent at the back end, where you can, from the programming interface, basically integrate algorithms to make sense of that information. So when we're talking about information from sensors, we're talking about information that could be, for example, the sound. The sound is a good example of what could be connected next to Joyce, so that whenever we have an image, additional information is connected to each frame. We can talk about what we call time of flight, which would give Joyce basically information about the distance of the object available in her field of view, for example. And already in the first version of Joyce, we already connected a few sensors, for example, the gyroscope, and give her basically a position in space. That's an example of something that she actually does. But what I mentioned is the core equipment of Joyce, the optics, so that she can see the data and picture, so that she can carry information from additional sensors. And third, the programming interface, so that people can add component to Joyce. Now, how is it done for the community so that they can upgrade Joyce? Well, we have a development kit that can be sent to the companies and individuals who are looking to add something to Joyce, so that they can actually work with it and connect it to their own computer to be able to add those components before we would actually add it to the actual robot. So that's basically how it works and what she does today.
Perhaps in terms of the optical components, they are quite special because our optical designers took the very careful in the designing that type of optics to make sure they can provide a good quality pixel from one edge to the edge of the 187 degrees. What it means that objects that might be completely on the edge of the lens, you will be able to clearly see them and be able to use that information that usually on wide angle lenses, you may lose a lot of the quality, the objects on the edges. So having three lenses configured either to have a stereo, so actually in a passive way, you can have a 3D information coming from that stereo, but instead of having it only on the center or in a certain 70, 80 degrees field of view, you actually have that 3D information coming on the 187 degree field of view. You can also have back-to-back combined views, so that will give a full spherical view around Joyce. So these are really some of the key components that the optical design that allows to have that good quality 360 spherical or 3D stereo type of views.
Cool. Now, you guys are also inviting members of the computer vision community, including universities, developers, and technology companies, to participate in an international design competition to add to the technologies to enhance Joyce. Now, can you tell me more about the design competition aspect of this, and what are you hoping to gain by bringing in the computer vision community here?
Yeah, sure. We're talking about many ongoing competition on different team or different industries where basically the goal is to equip Joyce at the same time resolving challenges into specific industries and bring it further. So there are plenty of examples because computer vision is useful in, I would like to say, every industries or at least most industries. And we have plenty of examples of what those challenges could be. For example, there's still already today computer vision combined with AI to look at plants growing, basically. Why is that? Because by looking at plants growing, you can identify early on diseases and resolve some issues that will save billions in some industries. For example, just in the United States, in the oranges crops, there's a loss of over $4 billion related to those diseases. That's one example. You have a lot of example also in the automotive. Assisted or autonomous driving is something that's evolving quickly and largely related to how you connect computer vision with AI to basically make sense of the environment, how you can look at a car all around, but in any weather, any environments, and be able to take the right decision. And there's also plenty of example in the health sector, in the mobile device sector, in the robotics sector, in the manufacturing for, let's say, doing some quality analysis on production. So those ongoing contests will basically have the goal of evolving those different practices across different industries. And what we're looking to do is to bring people together around those specific issues based on who's actually already working on those different problems.
So, guys, what does the future look like for Joyce? Now, you guys mentioned some applications, but where do you think she's going from here?
Well, the goal at the end is to really bring all the technology together that will enable human perceptions and beyond to machines. And so that's a big challenge, which will keep us busy for many years. Actually, will keep not only Immervision, but the whole community busy in finding all the solutions. But we certainly see Joyce being at the heart of many solutions in the world and being kind of like the spokeswoman to perception and to the possibilities around the world.
What I would add is something we didn't talk about. We'll connect Joyce on the internet so that people can live the experience of seeing through her eyes. Then again, when I'm saying that it's secondary, it's because a lot of people are focusing on the fact that, it's going to be very cool because we're going to be able to see through her eyes. But then again, for us, it's just a way to bring some light on Joyce so that people follow her. And when they follow her, they get a better understanding of what can be done if we get together and create machine perception. So that's the important thing that we want people to remember.
Very cool. All right, you guys, it is time for my off-the-cuff question, and I think I'm throwing it to Alessandro. So what do you have that's fun to share with me, Alessandro?
Okay, let me put it this way. There's something that not a lot of people know, especially in the professional business. I've been skiing since I was 3 years old. And now for over 35 years, I've been a certified ski instructor, and I've been doing part-time teaching and certifying new ski instructors.
Wow, that's super cool, Alessandro. Where do you do that?
Well, I do in Canada, of course. I'm part of the Canadian Ski Instructor Association, and I do that, an hour and a half from Montreal. I can drive up one side or the other side. That's a passion, and it brought me a lot, being in touch with people and just sharing one passion with others, but especially sharing the passion with future instructors to share the passion with new skiers. And that's been a very enriching experience for me for the past years.
That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that. Well, I think that's all I have time for today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much, Amelia, again, for inviting us to share our story. Thanks.
Hey, have you checked out EE Journal on social media yet? Well, you should. You can find us at facebook.com/EEJournal. If you're into Twitter, you can monitor our tweets at EEJournalTFM. And don't forget, if you want to follow my personal Twitter account, check out Amelia D 1978. And hey, if LinkedIn is more your thing, well, sure, you can follow us or me on LinkedIn as well. And we have a YouTube channel, youtube.com/EEJournal. Folks, it is chock full of all kinds of techie videos, including our very popular Chalk Talk webcast series hosted by you-know-who. And you can subscribe to our EE Journal YouTube channel as well. Also, by clicking the links below the player on this week's Fish Fryin' page, you can subscribe to this here podcast through Spotify, Podbean, the iTunes Store, and a whole lot more. And remember, if you want any further information about the stories covered in today's show, just head on over to eejournal.com and look for this week's Fish Fryin' page. Thank you everyone for tuning in. If you know of any cool new technology or heck you just want to chat, I promise I will respond. Shoot me a line at amelia@eejournal.com or post a comment on our forums on EE Journal. For the week of September 25th, 2020, I'm Amelia Dalton, and you've been fried.